The clock on this Tuesday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. Coming up in our 7 o'clock news today, the Clinton Fire Department is readying for this weekend's 150th celebration on the Clinton Square. The DCDC director is reacting to the dip in the stock market from the last few days. A new program is here for gardeners at the U of I Extension. Details on that coming up, and we've got a look at this week's weekly crop report, but first, news streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Join the Clinton Fire Department for a celebration of its 150 years of serving the community. Captain David Dallas tells Regional Radio the celebration takes place Saturday on the Clinton Downtown Square. There will be food, demonstrations, and fire trucks from all over central Illinois.
Well, we've decided to have a 150th celebration. We're going to have a lot of things going on in the square. We'll start off in the morning with an apparatus show, where people other departments can bring their apparatus, show it off, see some of the latest technology. Maybe we'll get quite a few antiques that you can maybe see what it used to look like too. So we'll have that. We've got some fire equipment vendors, plenty of food trucks. So if you want food, we got a lot of food trucks. We'll have some demonstrations for fire extinguisher demonstrations, forcible entry, like that. And then we'll have a competition in the afternoon. We've invited several fire departments. They can bring a team. We'll do some events and see who can do pretty well at those. And then that evening, we'll have a band uptown.
There will also be a firefighter competition. Captain Dallas says there will be 5 different events. Any firefighter can compete. He notes firefighter competitions used to be very popular in the early days of the department.
We've got 5 different events. One that's basically just a standard hose roll. Then one that's called Out of the Bunk, where they're actually laying on a cot, the bell rings, they get up, and then in different stations put on all their gear. Of course, at the end of it, they'll have everything on, and they're timed. Have a truck pull. Okay. So they'll pull our old 41 engine. Then we'll have a bucket brigade, so they'll fill a barrel with their bucket brigade. And then the last one is an obstacle course, which kind of entails a lot of different things that we might do on a fire scene. Only they would do it in an organized manner. And
according to Captain Dallas, fire departments will bring their engines and the public will get a chance to see them and vote for their favorites. He indicates there will be prizes in several categories for departments that come out. Get more details about this weekend's 150th celebration of the Clinton Fire Department by finding the department's Facebook page. Still to come here on this Tuesday morning, a new program through the U of I Extension highlights planting plants that benefit each other. We've got to look at this week's crop report after cool and wet weeks in Illinois. It was wet and warm last week. Those details coming up here soon. The stock market has recently taken a hit. Monday on the WHOW Morning Show, Kurt Holman, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, says some of the downtrends of the stock market are not all doom and gloom. He hopes that back-to-school shopping will cause an uptick for the market.
I follow very, very closely national and even Midwestern economic trends. And certainly on a national level, they seem to be in a decline. So the stock market, for those that follow that, the stock market has really taken a hit the last several days with some selling. And a lot of that is because of a consumer weakness. You know, the consumer is unable or unwilling to spend as much money. And so that has caused some downturns economically. I have contacts actually throughout the country, but I spoke with a realtor on the East Coast about a month ago, and her comment was that home sales there had drastically dropped. And she said, you may not have seen that in the Midwest yet, but she says typically the Midwest is shielded a little bit more, but it'll come, or it comes a little bit later. So, so that sign, that is an indicator as well. And so we're we're cautiously watching economic activity for sure. Now we're going to have back to school spending that's probably taking place now, so it's always an upbeat in terms of retail activity. The problem is it's not discretionary. So, many of our area businesses rely on the discretionary spending, where it takes money away from additional purchases.
Holman works with local businesses and advises them based on national stock market trends. This can help to prepare business owners to manage their expectations and be ready for the future.
I watch it mostly to help businesses that I'm in contact with potentially manage their expectations a little bit better. So sometimes that can be helpful. Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't change any of their day-to-day operations. But I like to stay on top of that for sure. I fully expect an interest rate cut by the Fed in September, as most economists do, and that's an indication. That's something that certainly needs to be done. Probably they should have done that at the July meeting and did not. But I fully expect that will happen in September. So that's a way to kind of stimulate some economic activity again. And again, some people have said, well, that they should have done it earlier. So they may have delayed that a little bit too long. But regardless, I feel that that's coming. And of course, lower interest rates will stimulate housing a bit, will stimulate maybe borrowing and more purchasing. But ultimately, from our day-to-day activities, we look at our businesses and how we can give them some warning. And the reality is they probably are already seeing it. They're seeing it before the data comes even in on a national level. But business to business can be hit and miss. So we just want to warn people that maybe it's coming, and just be careful out there. Don't overspend in the next 30 to 60 days.
Holman says our chances of a recession have increased and wants to let people know that the Midwest can be somewhat shielded. The DeWitt County Development Council is looking into ways to increase revenue for DeWitt County.
I heard an economist this morning, as a matter of fact, indicate that probably our chance of a recession has gone from about 20 to 25% to close to 50%. So, we may even be in a recession, and that data doesn't come out till later to find out, but that is a real possibility. Now, I don't want to be, doom and gloom, because these are nationwide statistics, but I do want to let people know that is something that I certainly watch on a very regular basis, the economic activity, whether it's, again, stock market economic indicators from all over the country. Now, again, Midwest is somewhat shielded, business to business varies for sure. But we're actually looking at ways that we can help pinpoint data to help our countywide businesses as well.
Next week on Regional Radio, we'll have more on those strategies and how Holman hopes that will help the Development Council. Still to come here on this Tuesday, a local county farm bureau is bringing attention to the issue of the state's deer population doing damage to corn and soybean fields. And due to the extreme heat, the Red Cross faces an emergency blood shortage. Those stories still to come here on this Tuesday. There's a new program for home gardeners on planting plants that will benefit each other. Director of the U of I Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties, Terry Miller-Casey, explains the Four Seasons Gardening webinar series is the newest part of a series called Foodscaping, Creating Snacks Among the Flower Beds.
And that's called Foodscaping, Creating Snacks Among the Flower Beds. So I like to snack, so this one's got my interest. Much to my mother's chagrin, I was always a snacker,
Yeah.
But this is going to be healthy snacks. It's a design concept, Foodscaping is, that intentionally adds edible plant varieties to existing beds of ornamentals. So you have a beautiful flower bed. So how can you add some savory, yummy, healthy plants that not only are pretty, but also that you can eat and snack on and enjoy? And so I'm a big in utility. I have flower beds, but I also have within them growing tomatoes and my pepper plants, and they're pretty and they're right out my door. So I can walk right out, grab an herb, grab a tomato. And the good thing about that also, Seth, is I'm pretty busy. So I'm walking by those every day when I'm going into my home. It reminds me to care for them and to water them. Sometimes I garden out back, I lose my focus. So if you're like me, I think this landscaping, this edible landscaping might be the program for you. Again, it's August 13th, 1:30 to 2:30.
Miller Casey says there's a lot of research that goes into what combinations of flowers and plants you should have, and she hopes that inspires people to be more intentional about their flower gardens and managing their resources. Visit extension.illinois.edu/plants/4-seasons-gardening for more. It was a warm, wet week in Illinois this past week, as we hear in this weekly crop report. State crop statistician Mark Schleusner says temperatures were 4 degrees above normal and precipitation was an inch above normal.
Temperatures were above normal last week, and rainfall was also above average across Illinois. Temperatures averaged 78.2 degrees. That was 4.2 degrees above normal. Rainfall averaged 1.76 inches, nearly 1 inch above normal. There were 4 days suitable for field work around the Prairie State last week, and topsoil moisture increased to 1% very short, 7 short, 75% adequate, and 17% surplus.
Schleusner says corn conditions improved last week.
94% of corn acres are silking in Illinois compared to 96% 1 year ago and 93% for the 5-year average. 56% of acres have reached the dough stage compared to 46% normally. 4% of corn acres have reached the dent stage. Corn conditions improved and were rated 4% very poor to poor, 15% fair, and 81% good to excellent.
According to Schleusner, soybean conditions improved and remained well ahead of schedule.
92% of soybean acres are now blooming compared to 92% 1 year ago and 84% normally. 77% of acres are setting pods compared to 54% normally. Soybean conditions also improved and were rated 6% very poor to poor, 19% fair, and 75% good to excellent.
The second cutting of alfalfa hay is 95% complete, and the third cutting has reached 37% complete. Pasture conditions were rated 69% good to excellent, and Schleusner notes to look out for the NASS monthly crop production forecast for Illinois and the rest of the country, which will be published on Monday. It's 22 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. More to come on the morning show.
Still time for summer savings at Baum Chevrolet Buick. This is Scott Baum. Our goal is to make your purchase decision easy. That's why we have our prices posted on each and every car. For August, see our summer savings posted on each Chevrolet car, truck, SUV, crossover, and EV, especially the sporty Trailblazer and the all-new Chevy Trax. As always, our Silverados are in stock and ready to work for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City, right from the start.
News time is 22 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. A local county farm bureau is bringing attention to the issue of the state's deer population doing damage to corn and soybean fields. A recent meeting on the subject brought out more than 70 farmers, says Schuyler County Farm Bureau President Chris Vogler.
Well, we had several of our members come in and ask what we could do or how to help them. We've talked to several guys. They may farm 1,000 to 1,500 acres, and they've replanted 100 acres due to deer damage. They get the crops in, they get them up, and the deer come in and just annihilate it. And we know there's not a quick answer with the DNR, but we're looking for a solution to help alleviate some of that pressure.
And you've brought some different, policymakers to the table. I know you've met with I think a few state legislators that represent that portion of the area. You've talked to some Illinois Farm Bureau staff members. And as you mentioned, you've already kind of brought IDNR to the table. Tell us about some of these discussions, and I know they're ongoing.
Most of the meeting was just trying to throw out ideas that would work within regulations and within the state that help the farmers, but also keep everyone else happy. So some ideas like extending the season for nuisance permits to where the guys who get nuisance permits could use them in the fall or the winter where you can actually harvest the meat. That's an incredibly tough thing to do in the summertime when the heat's up. And we're not out here just trying to destroy a population of animals. We actually want to put that to use if as best we can.
And I know one of the initial meetings that you hosted, I saw in some materials, I think 70 farmers were in attendance. So this is an issue that is top of mind. So what about kind of the interest you have received in terms of discussing this problem?
We've had a ton of interest. It basically started out with 2 or 3 members kind of bringing it up to us. So we decided to put a meeting on and ask for pictures. And we received a ton of pictures from all of our farmers, just sending in, field corners that had been destroyed by deer, or beans that have been put in, but they're not growing because the deer just eat the top of them off continuously. There was a ton of interest in the county, and I think that extends past just Schuyler County. I mean, it's not just a local problem, but we felt like we had to start the conversation somewhere.
In addition to the meeting, state lawmakers visited fields in the area that have been impacted by the state's deer population. Due to the extreme heat, the American Red Cross faces an emergency blood shortage. Since July 1st, the national blood supply has fallen by more than 25%. Jay Eustace, regional communication manager for the Red Cross, says the Red Cross is short about 19,000 donations.
So right now, the American Red Cross, we're facing, as you said, an emergency blood shortage, and we're really urging people to go out and make an appointment and to give to kind of help those patients across the country receive that life-saving medical treatments when they can. So over the summer, we've seen millions of Americans that have really kind of dealt with dangerous levels of heat throughout this summer. And at one point in July, nearly 50% of Americans coast to coast were under these heat alerts. So what this heat has done, it's impacted blood drives across the country, really in every state where the Red Cross collects blood, kind of compounding with some other traditional seasonal obstacles that we see in blood donation, as far as people traveling, people not having time, as far as the kids being home from school and things like that. So all of these kind of factors have added up to where we're now seeing this emergency blood shortage. Yeah, so overall, the Red Cross, our national blood supply, we've seen it fall by more than 25% since just July 1st. So blood product distributions to hospital are currently now outpacing the number of blood donations that are coming in. So we're kind of seeing rapidly these blood products are being drawn off the shelves that we built up, and now the Red Cross, we're now currently working with these hospitals around the clock to kind of meet the blood needs of these patients. But obviously we can't do it alone. Blood is a product that we can't stockpile for too long. It's something that we have to make sure that we have a constant stream coming in order to make sure that people are receiving this kind of life-saving blood in terms of procedures that they might need.
According to Eustace, the Red Cross Type O needs Type O blood donations because Type O blood inventory is so low. Distributions of the blood type are reduced compared to what hospitals count on. For those wishing to make a donation, visit redcrossblood.org. Vice President Kamala Harris is the presumptive Democratic nominee for president and is expected to announce her running mate today. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin says the choice should be up to Harris, and he has some personal experience on advising a candidate on making that selection.
I think the names I've heard are all very encouraging. It's got to be a personal choice. This is a person who she will stand by for the remainder of the campaign and hopefully for 4 years in the presidency. I remember sitting down when Barack Obama was our nominee in an RV, I think it's somewhere down south in Atlanta or somewhere, and we went through a legal pad list of names and possibilities of running mates, and it was interesting. I, of course, can't share the comments, but it was a very candid appraisal because of our friendship. It's the most important single decision she will make in the early part of the campaign.
The short list for the selection seems to be down to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz or Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. News time is 28 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Coverage of news is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance.